heroin, it's the devil's juice. We've seen people that have come onto the streets and they actually look quite well and clean and tidy, and within 3 years they are a shell of their body because heroin and crack has taken over their whole life. So one of the biggest things I wanted to do as a charity was to give out clean needles. I called up near enough most of the doctors and nurses. They were like, nah, you can't do that. Like, that's a silly idea. Well, if someone gets an abscess or they catch HIV, what's the long-term effects on the government? What's the long-term effects on the NHS? Why can I not give out a clean needle? So I started doing the TikTok and it took off. You know, I was getting a lot of response from other people, and it made me realise that a lot of people battle it. Next thing, 10 police cars, 3 ambulances turned up. This car pulled up and I was like, that's not a normal police car. 2 guys got out, MP5s, armed police, said, get down on the fucking ground, get on the floor now. I've dropped my phone, I've smashed it on the floor. I instantly started crying. I just burst into tears, said, look, I'm not harmful, I'm not a bad person. I said, I just want to end my life.
So welcome back to my YouTube channel with myself, Joe Todd. So today I'm filming the first podcast for the channel. If you watched the first intro video I put out, you'd understand sort of the dynamic of this channel. But one of the reasons I set it up is I want to have guests on that bring something more than just business or entrepreneurship. Of course, that's going to be a big part of the channel, something that I'm passionate about. But I wanted to have the person sat next to me, Jack, on as my first guest on this channel, just because the story's incredible. It's been a whirlwind of a journey for you, which we're going to dive into. But from being homeless, sectioned in hospital, turning his life around to building a successful charity, helping people in need, being head greenkeeper of a golf course. So yeah, I just think it brings a complete different dynamic, something that I want to speak about, something that I'm passionate to get involved with in the future, helping people in need and homeless people especially. Jack, thank you very much for joining me and coming down, having a chat with us.
Thanks for having me.
We'll expand further on the charity work that you do, but the fact that you've got a homeless charity or charity helping the homeless, obviously you yourself at one stage was homeless, if I'm correct.
Yeah.
How did that come about?
Growing up, I probably wasn't the best behaved young man on the planet. I went through school and, barely scraped through school, and I didn't care about education or jobs or anything like that. And I found myself homeless, and I was 17. I went on to the streets quite young. I wasn't on the street a long time compared to some of the people that we work with, but I'd done sort of 6 months on and off sofa surfing, a bit on the streets as well. And I found myself homeless, and I experienced it very, very young. And in those times of being homeless, I was sexually abused. I developed an issue myself with drugs. Cocaine was my choice of drug, and I used it as a cover-up for my issues, and I used it as a way to sort of swing my way through life. And I didn't have a clue. I was 17, so I didn't know what was actually happening in life to me. I was just sort of winging it and sniffing my way and drinking my way through life at 17. So it's something that I can relate back to now, and it's the reason why I do what I do, because I experienced it not for a long time, but for a short time, and in the time that I experienced it, it was a lot. And
I was going to say, obviously you're comparing it to people maybe that you've now found that have been on the streets for years, but to most people, a night on the streets is pretty extreme. So to do that for 6 months, even if it's on and off, it is a lot. And so what does that actually look like? You say you're homeless, obviously some on the streets, some going, I'm guessing friends or families, around the sofas. What does that look like? How are you in that sort of in-between stage? And in terms of, I mean, cocaine's not the cheapest choice of drug. No. So in terms of actually supporting yourself in some type of way, even to fund the drug addiction, how does that work?
It's just the zero routine. And as I've got older, I now rely on a routine. I now rely on like doing things as a creature of habit. I have to wake up in the morning and do things a certain way. If I have to wake up, brush my teeth, have my wee, then put my deodorant on. If I put my deodorant on, then have a wee, my day's ruined. Yeah. But I'm a creature of habit, and I think that where I was younger and I didn't have this routine, I didn't have this habit, and you know, like I said, sexually abused. I was sexually abused and groomed in return for money, and that funded my cocaine habit. And at the time, I thought that it was perfectly normal. I was still in school actually when I was first sexually abused. And I went and sat my GCSE the next day, and I thought that it was normal because I was so it developed in this mindset of drugs and alcohol was the only cure for feeling the way I felt, and it wasn't. And as I've grown older and I've probably developed a worse of addiction in time with an unhealthy relationship with alcohol and drugs, it's about now that it all relates back to growing up. And
so when you say sexually abused, how is that? Was that someone that was already a figure in your life?
So
was that on the actual street?
I spent some time with some friends growing up on an estate. I won't label the estate. It was in South London, and there was an elderly man that used to chat to all the people playing out, and you know, and he'd be like, right, boys, who wants to come to my house for a drink tonight? And because we're young and we're under 18, we can't buy a drink. So he'd be like, fucking hell, Eve's inviting us for a drink. So we get there, and then it developed into grooming. So we'd be in the house, and it'd be like, right, boys, you've drunk those beers, and you've sniffed your drugs. Who wants to earn some money? But it'd make it fun. It'd be like, right, do me a favour, take your trousers down, do a moonie, and I'll give you £100. So at the start, me and my friend was like, oh, fucking hell, this is the best money we've ever earned. Look, £100 to pull your trousers down. I'll do that for a laugh in the middle of the street. And then obviously it developed to more. And every time we went there, and it went on for quite a period, even before I was homeless, we developed this relationship where it'd be a little bit more each time, it'd be a little bit more. And, you know, there was like time, so it was me and one of my friends, and I won't say his name because he will not talk about it to this day, and fair play to him, that's fine, I understand it. And sometimes he would get the call and I wouldn't. And even though I knew in my mind what I was walking into and what was going to happen to me, if I didn't get a call, I'd be jealous. I'd be like, well, why didn't he call me? Why hasn't he called me to go over there? Even though I knew I was going to go over there for that reason. And in time it developed to more, and like it'd be like, right, boys, right, you've done the Mooney stage, like bend over. And it'd be finger in your bum. And I know this is, like I said to you before we start this, there's nothing I'm afraid to not talk about because I need to express this in order to grow and learn myself. And I remember like one day, like the old finger in the bum stuff happened, and I went and sat my GCSE the next day. And I remember sitting there in the GCSE hall going, I'm hurting down there and I don't need to be hurting down there, and I'm 16. Why am I feeling like this? And then eventually it tailed off and it finished up, and we never saw that man again. And he was gone 75 when he was doing it to us. So this is probably 16, 17 years ago, and he's probably dead now. And that's good, you know, as I've grown up into a man, and a man that can probably handle myself a little bit better than what I could. And if I had my way, I'd go around there and I would sort it out myself. You know, I've got two young boys. One of them's 10, one of them's 5. And I pray that they never go through the antagonizing grooming and like the manipulation that I went through. And I look at them and I'm like, I pray that never happens to them. But when I was younger, I thought that it was normal. I thought, well, my mate's doing it. Why am I not doing it?
So was it just you and one other friend that this happened?
There was a few of us that would go in there. Everyone would go there on sort of different days or different parts of the week. But it was me and my friend that developed this sort of relationship, as you call it, with this man. But like I said, there'd be days that he would go around there and I wouldn't get the call up. And I'd be like, well, why hadn't he called me?
That's crazy. That's strong manipulation.
You think, because I've always said, like, when someone gets raped, whether it's male or female, like rape is a one hit, it's straight away, it's instant. No matter where it is, whether it be in a nightclub or, you know, it's one hit. And it does leave a long-term effect. But when you get it into your mind that it's normal, so you continuously do it. And I feel like that's worse than a one-hit wonder of like a man that's going to pull your trousers down and rape you. This is a continuous weekly occurrence for you. And you start to think in your mind, this is normal. Like, this is all right. Like, it's only banter, isn't it? It's £100.
So how did that end?
I think we just grew up out of it and just said, look, this can't happen anymore. I grew up older and wiser, and I said, look, this has got to stop. And my life was changing at the time. And then I went homeless, and I went homeless, and then I got myself out of homelessness. I got myself a job, and it was just like, right, that doesn't need to happen anymore. I'm earning money now. I can buy my own Coke without having to let a man do that to me.
So did you have parents at this
time
in your life? Or?
You know, my parents are good people. They're good people. I put them through a lot naturally in terms of my behaviour, my actions, the way I behaved. I put them through a lot. And it gets to a point, I think, that like, I think in life, people just go, we can't help you anymore. You're on this different path in life, and that's it. And I have a relatively good relationship with them now. And, you know, I didn't speak to them for multiple years. And I think in life's too short to have regrets and worries. So, you know, I put it to bed, and I said, look, let's make a meet. So I was homeless for a period, and some girls that I grew up with, who are actually now what I call my foster sisters, or I call them my sisters. I went to school with them, and they lived across the road from me when I was growing up. And when their mum found out I was homeless, and she said, come and stay with us. So at first she was a bit sceptical. She didn't know why I was homeless, what the reason was I a thief, or was I a bad person? And she told me this in the end. And I started to stay with her, and one day I went over to the house, and she said, look, I'm taking you in. We're going to get you a job. We're going to get you some clothes, because you can't keep walking around in those same clothes. And she got me a job. She took me to the shops to get me clothes. And when I had earned enough money, she was saving it for me. She went and got me into like sort of a little room share. And she taught me a lot of morals and manners in life. And I still sometimes sit there in my life, and I thank her. She was an angel in disguise. And about 5 years ago, she passed away unexpectedly. She had a few health problems, and if she was in hospital, she'd always text me like, I'm in hospital. But I'd be the first one down there. I'd sit by her bedside all day, even if it was running down to Marks and Spencer's at Mayday to get her a bit of food. And one morning she was going in for day surgery, and she texted me and said, don't forget, I've got my surgery today. I love you. I'll speak to you later. So I said, right, love you. Speak to you soon. I used to call her mum. And 2 o'clock in the afternoon, my phone rang and said, look, there's been an issue with the surgery. She's in intensive care, and you need to get to the hospital. We all waited by the hospital, the bedside as a family, and sleeping on the floor in intensive care in Mayday. And I run home in the morning to get changed because my work clothes come back. By the time I got back, she was taking her last breath and she died. But I still thank her now for the stuff that she taught me. And her daughters, they are my sole support network now. One of her daughters, Paige, she's been sitting with me for the last 12 hours in hospital. I had a bit of a funny turn yesterday, took myself to hospital, she sat with me. Apart from my good friend Adam, I've got a fantastic support network. I've got good friends. But Paige, if I call her, she'll be there in a heartbeat. Same for Adam, same for a few friends I've got, Wesley, and some good mates who generally want the best for me in life. But Paige, Karen's daughter, we've carried on this legacy of like, she's my sister, like she looks after me. And I always constantly remind her, I love you, you're a good person, thank you for doing what you do.
So just on the time when you was homeless.
Yep.
Just want to get a bit of an insight. Homeless or helping the homeless is something that I certainly want to do. I want to help. It's one of my most probably ambitious plans out of everything in business and stuff, which even though to some people a lot of my plans there sound ambitious, for me, that's just what I like and I'm passionate about, so it will come naturally. But something that I am very ambitious about is having the biggest possible impact on helping the homeless and just shifting the mindset, both of people that are homeless, but also how people perceive the homeless people, where essentially a lot of people, you know, if you look in London or wherever, people just walk past them like they don't exist. They just think all of them have a drug or drink problem, and that just rules them out, even though they probably have a drug or drink problem themselves. It's just suited and booted. What's life actually like, or the community of homeless people? Is everyone on drink or drugs?
Some of the most educated people I've ever met in my whole life have been living on the streets. I could list names of people that we've built relationships with over the last couple of years that are the most kindest, caring, educated people, and they've just turned a bad turn. I mean, there is a lot of people on the streets that are using drink and drugs as their way to get through being on the streets, and they do fall into this cycle where they become so dependent on heroin, crack, alcohol, that's their life now. But I truly believe that no one goes onto the streets as a heroin addict. You don't get me wrong, you get a few that have lost their way in life and that's how they fall up. But I've met people that have gone onto the streets sober. And in the winter, imagine you got 15 hours a day sitting there in the pissing rain and the frozen cold, and someone says, look, have a little bit of this, it's going to make your day warmer, it's going to make your day pass. And then they fall into this trapped cycle of constantly using, they fall into the addiction, and heroin, it's the devil's juice. And when I say that, I mean we've seen people that have come onto the streets and they actually look quite well and clean and tidy, and within 3 years there's nothing there is a shell of their body, because heroin and crack has taken over their whole life. Heroin and crack has taken their whole life, and they will do anything physically possible to get that fix of heroin. It's the addiction in their brain that forces them to get that. And drugs and alcohol are a big part of being homeless. It's something within the homeless community that it's big, and people become dependent on the feelings of what an opioid does and the feelings of what the high of crack does. But they're generally good people that just need a second chance. Just need a second chance. I've got a guy that I work with. He's well known within Croydon. About 3 years ago, I put my time into him during COVID. I was meeting him in the mornings and going to get him. I found out what his favourite breakfast was from McDonald's. So on the way, I would get him breakfast. Then I said to him, look, I want to take you for a haircut tonight. Let's go and get a haircut. 3 days I went there, didn't turn up. I kept trying. And on the last day, he turned up. We went round in Croydon to barbers. We went in about 5 different barber shops, and no one would entertain him. No one wanted him inside the shop. One guy, I said, Chris, you wait outside. I said, I'm going to take you into the barber shop. Went into the barber shop. I said, look, do me a favour, please. I said, I'll pay you extra. I said, just this young man needs a haircut. He's like, mate, he's just the same as everyone else, this barber in Surrey Street. Gone in there. He had hair down to here. And Chris, being himself, he's like, can I have a French crop? He's like, I haven't had one in years. And he realised there was a TV on in the corner. And the barber noticed that he kept swaying towards his TV. The barber swung him around and said, look, I'm going to cut your hair. You watch TV. And he was going, Jack, this is wicked, man. He said, I haven't seen TV in about 5 years. He said, I can't believe I'm watching TV and getting my hair cut. And it literally, I'm big on a haircut because for me mentally, like, if I go and have a haircut, it makes me feel good. I come out of the sunbed shop or the haircut and I feel like, I feel good now. Yeah. And for what it done for that man to have a haircut, it was the be-all or end-all. He needed it. He hadn't had it done in years. And he come out and he was like, Jack, I can't believe it. So in the end, I said, right, it doesn't stop there. We're going to go to KFC. We're going to sit down. We're going to have a meal. Walked into KFC. Everyone was looking around going, oh, why are you sitting with a homeless person? I said, well, put your hand on your chest. Beats the same as everybody in this room. His heart beats the same as yours does. All right, he might smell a little bit and his clothes are a bit dirty, but it beats the same. This is why we need to account homeless people as being the same as us. So we sat there, we had KFC, went to Millet's, we bought a sleeping bag, we bought a rucksack. I said, right, let's go to Primark. We bought socks, we bought pants, bought clothes. And we made him feel human again, because people sit outside train stations, and East Croydon train station, for example, they got such a high footfall of traffic that you might sit at East Croydon, you might have 500 people walk past you in 30 minutes. Not one of them stops. And I always say to people, if you haven't got money, just stop, see a homeless person, go, how's your day been? They might going to tell you it's a horrible answer you don't want to hear, but you're going to make them feel human again. You're going to make them feel like a person. You're going to make them feel like they're part of society. So this is what I've done with Chris. I took him under my wing, and he never forgets it. Every time I see him now, he comes out, he goes, I can't believe that time that you done it. In the end, we grew such a relationship with him that we used to book him into a hotel for a night just so he could shower. We took him to Jury's Inn one night. Well, first of all, we took him to Easy Hotel in East Croydon. They turned us away because he was homeless. So in the end, we took him to Jury's Inn. I booked it, and I said to him, right, you wait outside. I'm going to book it, and we're going to give you the room key. Me and Adam have taken him up to the room, and he was bouncing up. Oh my God, I've got a telly. I've got a bed. I've got a shower. And it's small. Like tonight, you're going to go home and have a shower. I'm going to go home and have a shower. I'm going to go home and lay on my bed. I might watch a bit of TV. So that man hasn't seen that in a year, 2 years. And we done it for him.
So someone like that, you've got him to a point of excitement, appreciation, experienced feeling good again, even for short periods of time. How can you then get him to the next level to get him off the street?
So this is the difficult part, and this is where drugs and alcohol does take over. But we work closely with a charity called Change, Grow, Live, and their homeless coordinator, the manager, I'm actually really good friends with. We built up a fantastic relationship. That they work with getting people off the street, and they work with putting them into rehab, into detox, and accessing all the right mental support. And we have seen success stories, and I know they are a little bit few and far between, but we have seen good success stories. Because from someone that's dealt with addiction myself, this time last year I was alcohol dependent. I couldn't drink without shaking. I couldn't not have a drink without shaking. I couldn't go a day without a drink. I would think every single moment in my mind of how am I going to have a drink today? How am I going to go and get those 4 cans down the shop? It might not be excessive, but I needed those couple of drinks to take the edge off the day. And what I realised is towards the end of last year, I was really, really deep into to drug addiction and coke addiction. For me, coke was not a social thing. I couldn't go down the pub with the boys and sniff coke. My issue with coke was that Friday night I'd sit there, I'd call in £200 worth of gear, buy myself a bottle of vodka, and I would start Friday and I'd finish Sunday, and I wouldn't go to bed. This was last year? This was last year.
So you've come back. Even though you'd in the middle, you'd changed your life around.
Done a detox.
Family, home, good job. And then you come back to the addiction still managed to come back.
So I'd done a detox, and I used to buy gear on a Friday and turn my phone off and not speak to anyone. I'd sit there gambling all weekend. I'd sit there scrolling through TikTok. I'd sit there messaging everyone under the sun about my life, and they'd heard it all before. And one day I went on a bender as such. I started on the Thursday, and on the Sunday I'd sniffed so much coke, ket, bottles of vodka, bottles of wine that my mind had just gone into overdrive. I was lost. I was so lost. And I sat there on a Sunday morning. I said, right, what way can I get myself out of this? The answer is ending my life. I've gone down to the local woodland in Chipstead where I used to live and attempted to end my own life, and I called the ambulance. The ambulance came, and by that time I'd gone into something called drug psychosis, that where you sniff so much drugs and that your brain just basically goes out of planet. You lose touch with reality. I'd done so much drugs, I just flicked off. The police came, the ambulance came, I was fighting everyone. I'm not a fighter. Anyone that knows me, I know I'm not a fighter. I can handle myself, but I'm a loving person. I'd rather give you a cuddle than punch you in the face. I wanted to fight every single person on this planet. I couldn't, there was no one that could talk to me down. And it went on for a couple of days. I went to Mayday, they sent me home, gave me some sleeping tablets, told me to sort myself out. In the end, it got so bad that I was laying in bed and I was going, there's someone playing pool. I'm laying in bed, someone's playing pool. My sister come and pick me up, put me in the car to take me to her house, and I was like, someone's got a football shirt on. Someone's got a football shirt on, and she was going, there's no one with football shirts, you're fine. And I'm going, there's someone's got a football shirt on. In the end, I turned so violent and so just lost on the planet that they had to call the police. They called the police. I'm walking down the road and I've seen, Adam was standing next to me. We was in the middle of Addiscombe High Street, walking down the road, and one police car went past me, and I'm gone like that. I'm going, like, I'm here, take me, because I need this help. Next thing, 10 police cars, 3 ambulances turned up, and it was a Volvo C90 4x4. It was silver. I still remember it to this day, because even though I was in a bad psychotic episode, it was something that flicked a switch in my brain. And this car pulled up, and I was like, that's not a normal police car. 2 guys got out, MP5s, armed police, said, get down on the fucking ground, get on the floor now. I've dropped my phone, I've smashed it on the floor. I instantly started crying. I just burst into tears, said, look, I'm not harmful, I'm not a bad person. I said, I just want to end my life. I've been on this bender for about 5 days, I just want to end my life. The armed police officer put down the gun, he come up towards me, he said, look, can you drop everything out your pockets? He said, stand still. He looked at me in the eye, he goes, you just need help, don't you? He said, you're just trapped. He said, please listen to me. He said, let me get you in the ambulance. He said, if I need to sit with you all the way to Mayday, he said, I will. And he was in a full-blown, like, the SWAT suit that they wear, the armed police. And he said, we had a phone call that you was a violent man. He said, you was going through psychosis, and this is what we have to do. He said, I'm sorry. He said that there was just a red alarm pressed, and this is what we had to do to get you in the right help. And this was in the middle of Addiscombe High Street. People were looking out their windows. People were, like, just confused. And he sat with me in the ambulance to Mayday, and when I got to Mayday, I was still trying to fight everyone. Security guard, big African security guards. I said, right, I was like, I'm going to take all of you. I said, I'll fight anyone right now, and I was just so lost. But so they put me on a detox instantly. They basically just drugged me up till I slept for a few days, and they put me on an alcohol detox where these tablets, they start you on a really high dose, and then after a while, what it does is it weans you off the alcohol, and your brain or your body doesn't become dependent on it. And I think it was about 9 days in hospital, and I got to about 4 days in, and I started to come back round to normal. The security guard that I'd offered out in the car park at the very start, he was coming up to see me every day and going, look, I knew you was a good boy, but I knew that you was trapped. And he kept coming to see me every morning. 2 weeks after I come out of hospital, I took him back a bottle of whiskey, and I said, thank you. We got a picture together on my phone. He goes, I knew that you was a good boy. He said, but you were just lost. And I got to about 3 days in the hospital. I said, you've got to want to do this. No, my family had been crying around me for weeks. I'd been begged by ambulance nurses to sort myself out. The only person that could have got me out of that addiction was myself. And I said, look, Jack, no one else matters right now. You've got to want to do this. And I said, I can't continue to be sitting at home, wallowing in my problems, worrying about the past things that have happened to me, killing myself with drugs and alcohol, because I wouldn't survive much longer. It would have either been suicide or drugs that would have killed me off.
And do you look back on that stuff and feel like directly that was you just trying to numb pain?
Yeah.
And did you struggle to come to terms? Like, obviously you've spoke openly now on the start, but a year ago or whenever you was going through this, before that, would you speak openly on what you'd been through?
No, I found it really difficult. I used to make a joke about, so the guy that groomed me, he used to have money, it would cash money in Quality Street tins, and it'd be cash, and he'd get it out of this Quality Street tin. And I had a joke in the WhatsApp group with the boys, like, oh fucking hell, Christmas is coming around, boys, everyone send me Quality Streets, because everyone knew that was my way of dealing with it. And I spoke to Ferris before, and she was like, that's the way that you deal with it in terms of banter, because you haven't assessed it properly yet. But then I would get into these deep cycles of being awake for a couple of days, and it would all I'd think about, I'd go to sleep, and I'd fall asleep, and I'd wake up, and I'd like shock myself, and I think, I can feel his breath on me. This is 12 years later. I'll be laying there going, I can feel the old man breath on my neck, where he used to sit behind me and kiss my neck and stuff like that. And it's 12 years later. And it's not until I've recently dealt with it and actually spoke to someone that deals specifically with trauma and why these things happen to you. And like, I've learnt now that it was not my fault, and it wasn't me being addicted to drugs or me being young and naive. That was that man's problem. That's now reflected on me 10 years later. But I had to want to go sober. So I done a detox at the end of August. I done 152 days sober towards the end of last year and the start of this year. I was in a loving relationship, and every single one of my friends was proud of me, and we had a celebration when I hit 100 days sober, and everybody was so proud and so happy of me, and I was doing well, but I was battling new emotions I'd never felt before. So where you'd have a shit day at work, you come home and you'd drink 6 cans of lager, or all the boys are going out and you're going to want to sniff gear with them. I was like, well, I can't do this anymore. So now I've got to learn new ways of dealing with myself. And I just worked myself up so much into this sobriety and dealing with new emotions that I come off the rails again. End of January, like I said, I was in a loving relationship. I was with someone that generally deeply cared about me and loved me with all their heart, and she helped me process all the emotions of being sober. And like, we started going to pubs together for half an hour, and we'd sit there and go, like, are you comfortable? Like, when you want to leave, let's leave. Like, we were doing it as a test, because all my friendship circle were boozers and drinkers and the pub boys, so we've got to learn new ways of dealing with it. So she supported me fully in that, and I done 152 days sober, and I was 100 days sober, and I got home and she'd done me a Millie's cookie. She bought me a little key ring saying how proud of me she was, because when she first met me, I was the drug addict, I was the no one that wanted to be around, but she stood by me for all that. And when I was sober, and then I just lost it. I went into psychosis again, start of this year. She come home one day, she'd been at her mum's, and I said, I'm leaving you. And she goes, what? I said, I'm leaving you. I said, I can't be with you anymore. And she goes, but why? We've been good for the last however many months. I said, I can't. And in my mind, I wanted to self-sabotage, because every time something's gone good in my life, I need to fuck it up. So I said, I'm leaving you. I said, and I was shit with saving money, so she saved my money for me. I said, I want all my savings, so transfer them to me now. And she couldn't quite get her head around it. I said, give me my savings. So she transferred me £800 in my bank. I booked a week's hotel in Premier Inn in Chesington, away from everyone. Booked it. My friend come and picked me up. All my belongings to this hotel. I mean, I had a fucking room full of stuff in this little double room in Chesington. And I said, I'm going to kill myself. So I ordered a load of coke, sat there, sniffed my brain away. And 3 attempts it took, and I stripped the bed sheets off in this hotel room, stripped them off. First time I'd done it, I couldn't do it. I went to push myself off the wardrobe. I was like, call an ambulance, went to the hospital, they sent me home. 2 days later, tried again. Tried to commit suicide again, didn't work, called an ambulance, went back to hospital. The 3rd day, I got home and I said, right, today's the day. Like, I'm so committed. I wasn't even crying. Before I was playing music, I'd be wallowing, there'd be tears coming from my eyes. It would be such an emotional breakdown on such an emotional attempt of suicide. But the 3rd time, I was just so calm. I said, right, today's the day, Jack. I said, and I kept telling myself, my brain, I said, you want this. You want this. You've eaten yourself up so much that you want this suicide now. It's happening. So then again, got the pillowcases. I got the teaspoon where they have the kettle, and I stripped my teaspoon with the pillowcases down into sections. I tied them all up. I knotted one end, knotted the other. Put it in the wardrobe, and I got it round my neck. And I sat there and I rocked backwards and forwards for about 15 minutes, going, right, make the jump, Jack. This is what you want. This is happening now. Make the jump. And fortunately enough, I was still aware at the same time, so I was messaging people as a desperate plea for help, and I was messaging my old general manager, and I said, look, I'm going to end my life. I pushed off the wardrobe, the little like bit where you hang your clothes in the Premier Inn. It's only a little small wardrobe, and I remember sitting there going, right, that's it now. I can feel the veins coming, the veins are popping, and I was there, and next thing, the fucking door went bang, 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 bang. This is the police. Open up. And by that time, I'd thought what passed out, and I had this horrible taste in my mouth. And when I spoke to the nurses after, I said, what's that taste? I can't get rid of it. She goes, that's where you've starved your brain so much of oxygen that you was so close. And the police pushed through the door. They come in, they cut it down, they put me straight in the ambulance. They took me to hospital. I spent a week in Kingston Hospital, and then I was transferred over to Royal Bethlem in West Wickham. And I'd done 6 weeks in Royal Bethlem, and they got me on the right medication. I accessed some therapy, and they explained the process of why that happens, and like everything. So, and I've learned a lot now about self-sabotage. Like, I've got a good friendship circle, I've got a charity, I've got a good job, I've got loving children, I've got loving friends, but some days I just want to wreck it all. Some days I'm like, well, I've got a really good friend there. Well, fuck him, I don't upset him, because I'm so used to everything being on a roller coaster that what? Oh, fucking hell, this is normal. Like, we're having a normal couple of weeks, Jack. You haven't felt sad. You haven't wanted to end your life. Why is this normal? This is not normal.
That's obviously you're at an extreme, but I think you actually see it quite a lot in society where there's certain people that thrive in chaos.
Yeah.
And that's obviously yours is at an extreme, but you see that just in the day-to-day where exactly that, where people, I think, probably does often stem back from childhood. If you've been around chaos, you're used to living in chaos, then naturally you're just drawn back to that way of thinking, that way of life. And you often hear people saying they've tried to kill themselves, and I think anyone that's not ever been in that mindset is obviously going to be naive, which is understandable. You know, I think some people are more understanding that they're naive, like myself, and can obviously feel for people that have gone through that. Some people would quote it being selfish and this type of stuff. What do you think it is? Because ultimately, if you really want to kill yourself, you can kill yourself.
So mine's spontaneous, and I've learnt a lot about suicide and suicidal thoughts. There's suicidal, like, I'm having a shit day, I'm going to kill myself. And there's suicidal with intent. You're like, right, I'm going to do it.
And is that where you was the first 2 attempts?
Yes. So I've had multiple diagnoses with my mental health. So I've had cyclothymia, which is a bit like bipolar disorder, where you get these ups and downs, you get these severe highs and the severe lows, and then you could... I always say my mood's like pick a mix. I can wake up in the morning, I don't know whether I'm going to be 150 off the chart or minus 50. I'm pick a mix. And recently, like, going into hospital got me a diagnosis, and I've been diagnosed with unstable personality disorder. So my personality is unstable, and it stems from childhood, and it stems from trauma, it stems from things that have happened to you in your life. So it's similar to bipolar, but you've got a lot more swings, and the mood cycle is so much more wild. And you could message me, like, even as my friend, you could message me and be like, something like a small sentence, but I will pinpoint one word on that sentence and I'll think about it. And I'll be like, fucking hell, has he got the ump with me? Is he still my mate? Or and I'll rack my brain about it. And what I've learned since going into hospital, like, is how to now balance these moods and get the right balance in my moods. And I need to take medication. They help me cap the highs and they help me cap the lows. And it's just with my suicide, is like, I always say this to the nurses and the psychiatric doctors that I speak to. I'm not depressed, because people that are depressed sit in bed for days and days and days, and they can't find nothing positive in their life. And I've got so much positive in my life, so much. I've got good friends, I've got a good job, I've got education, I've got everything positive, and I'm not depressed. But I get into these wild mindsets where it's a spontaneous decision, and if I can't switch myself out of that mindset at that time, that's it. I need to end my life. Even though that I could wake up and I've got so many friends and family, I just can't switch myself out of the mindset.
So what do you think it is that makes you not go that full? I know you did on that last attempt, but the other part, is that just your mind's taken over, but it's still your heart's in it, and is it a cry? Is it a cry for help to yourself?
Don't get me wrong, some of my suicide attempts in life have been a cry for help. They're like, right, I need the help now. Like, the mental health profession or the nurses or the GP is not doing the right work that they need to do. But sometimes I've been deadly set. I've been deadly set to the point where I'm like, I'll be thinking about it throughout the day. I'll be thinking, I go, right, tonight's the night. I've researched the nooses. I've spent half an hour writing a suicide note. In my suicide note, it even said, please continue to campaign for men's mental health, because I don't want another man to ever feel like this. We need to do more for men's mental health. And I think as a country, we don't. I think that the system is so lethargic in terms of what they do in help. And if you went to your GP tomorrow and you said, look, I've been depressed for a couple of weeks and this is what's going on in my life, they'll go, right, take these antidepressants. Oh, by the way, when you take them for the next 3 weeks, you're going to absolutely be on a wild turn of emotions and want to kill yourself. But keep taking them and you're going to get better. Rather than going, right, tell me about your childhood. Tell me about something that's going on in your life. Have you had something traumatic happen to you? Let's get you the therapy. Because it costs them more to give you 12 sessions of therapy to evaluate and look back what's ever happened in your life than it is to go, right, here's 28 citalopram or here's 28 sertraline. Take these and you're going to be fine. But what happens is you get hooked onto the antidepressants and then you can't live without them, and then you get stuck in the cycle of it rather than actually accessing therapy.
Your TikTok, the socials, you've obviously taken to that and doing pretty well. I think I looked, you got about 18,000 followers, something like that.
So when I turned sober, I started a TikTok as in like, I just want to project how I'm feeling. I wanted to take it day by day. So like I was posting like 20 days sober, 40 days sober, and like going to my first pub without having a drink, or being around someone that's going to rack up a line in front of me and I'm not going to have one. So I started doing the TikTok and it took off. You know, I was getting a lot of response from other people, and it made me realise that a lot of people battle it. And then I literally documented a lot, and it took me a long while to get in front of the camera and speak about things. And my girlfriend at the time was like, "Look, I'll support you. Like, I want you to document it. Like, it'd be good for you to help you and stuff like that." So we started doing that, and but it got to a point where I was just like, I was committed to say everything on there. So I got to my 100 days sober, I posted about it, and I was getting messages from random strangers going, "I'm so proud of you." And I'm like, "Yeah, but you don't even know me." Yeah. But I've done 100 days sober. But because they've battled an addiction themselves, they know what it's like to be 100 days sober. And then I was on around about 7,000 followers, something like that. It started to take off, and I was getting good views. I'd sort of push a video out, I'd get 100k views or 50k views. I was trying to do daily content. I was getting to sit there in front of the camera and go, right, today I'm having today's number 60 out. I didn't feel like a drink today. Getting used to it, and then I went through the period where I went into psychosis, and I hit the 150 odd day mark, and I documented it. I was in the hotel room, and I was so committed to telling people about the real life and so committed to helping people that I posted a video of my noose. I posted a video in the Premier Inn, and I said, "Look, I've just tried to hang myself. I'm crying. I'm wiping tears away." And my phone blew up with people that I hadn't even spoke to in years going, you're on my FYP page, like, are you okay? Like, I've just seen this video about you. And I'm like, yeah, I'm just documenting life. I'm documenting it. I want to help someone else. So when another man's going to tie a noose, he might see that video and go, fuck me, like, we can do it. We're going to do this. As a man, as a sufferer, we can do this. So I documented it, and then I ended up getting sectioned. And I remember doing a day in the life of someone in a psychiatric ward. And when you see psychiatric wards on a film, they're not like what they are in real life, you know. So I was still quite ill, and they held me in Kingston Hospital for about 5 or 6 days until they could find me a place in a psychiatric ward. And they actually put me on a secure unit in Bethlehem. So there was 3 doors before you could even get outside. You had to ask for your deodorant. You could ask for a towel. The first couple of nights I was in there, I went in there. I got transferred from Kingston to Bethlehem, and I went in this white ambulance. It's a white ambulance. It's got a little tiny green light at the top, and it's a Sprinter van, but just all white. And I had one security guard, one driver, and a nurse with a fucking ready to calm me down if you need to. And I got in the thing, and he said, right, we're going to take you to Bethlehem. Do you know where you are? I said, yeah, I know where I am. I was still quite ill at the time. I didn't quite know what was going on in life. And he said, right, lay down. I said, okay. He goes, which way do you want to lay? He said, do you want to lay on your back? Do you want to lay on your left-hand side or your right-hand side? I said, what? He goes, well, the seatbelts are electronic. He said, only I can release them. He said, so whatever way you pick you're going to lay, you're going to lay. So I said, right, I'll lay on my back. So he strapped me, and he said, right, the only way I can undo these is if I stop the car, or stop the van and undo them. So it dropped me to Bethlehem. It was an hour's drive. I didn't know what I was going into. I didn't know. I was still quite unwell and in psychosis, and I was drugged up to the eyeballs with these mood stabilizers and diazepam and lorazepam, and I turned up at this hospital in the middle of nowhere, and it was really surreal. It was a Saturday night, and there was not a car in sight, and I was at a hospital. I was like, this is not a normal hospital. And I actually sat outside in the car park for an hour with a blanket wrapped around my head. I got a picture that my sister took of me. My sister said, look, when you get there, I'm going to be waiting at the door of the ambulance, and we're going to take you in together. Like, I'm going to be there with every step of this journey for you. And I turned up to the hospital, and I sat outside for an hour crying, going, I don't want to go in. And they was like, well, tough, you're in now, just get in. Got in, and there was probably 15 men on my ward. 6 of them knew what day of the week it was. The rest of them didn't. A lot of them had been brainwashed into religion, so like they were reading the Quran all day. They were walking around reciting phrases from the Quran. They were singing Arabic songs. They were doing the call to prayer. They'd been to prison, and then they come out of prison, they'd been brainwashed, they'd been sent to... I met this young guy. He'd done 3 armed robberies in a week, but they class him as a mental illness. And I walked in there, and this one guy come up to me. I don't know if I can say this on the podcast, but he came up to me and he was like, do you think I'm a fucking N-word? He's like, do you think I'm a fucking N-word? And I was like, mate, I don't know who you are or what you're about. He said, well, I run this place. He said, I run this wing. He said, this is my wing. He said, this is what I do. He said, this is my hospital. I said, mate, we're in hospital, not prison. I said, look, I don't have a problem with you. I said, I'm going to put my hand out. I said, you're going to shake my hand. I said, and that's it, me and you done for the rest of this time that I'm in here. I said, look, I don't want your trouble. You don't want my trouble. I said, I'm here to get better. I said, shake my hand. He pushed my hand away. I said, okay, cool. Like, we'll keep it at that. First couple of nights I was in there, I had a guy. So it's a one-to-one. So one patient is one member of staff. So you got these big sort of security guards. And when I went in there for the first couple of days, they put me on one-to-one bed watch. So that means you can't brush your teeth without some man standing behind you going, are you brushing your teeth okay?
So are you not in your own individual room?
Yeah, you're in your own individual room, but you keep
access to these other guys.
So you eat dinner together. 8 o'clock at night, you go and get your tablets. So everyone queues up for your tablet. You go in there, you get your blood pressure done. You get your sometimes a blood test. You get everything you need to do. They give you what they need you to take, and then you go to bed and you take it. So you share dinner together, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Maybe a bit of garden time. It's like prison, but for the mentally unwell.
And do you think these places are good and help get better?
No.
Do you think the opposite?
I've learnt more.
Do you think it runs a risk of you going the other way?
I've learnt, yeah.
As in even deeper?
I've learnt more since coming out of hospital than I was in hospital, and people that I've met in hospital at the time, I got on really well with some guys in there. For instance, there was a guy that I made friends with. He come up to me straight away and he was like, look, I've can see that you'll know. He said, if you need to borrow a T-shirt, a pair of socks, he said, I'm your man. Like, and I looked at him and I was like, that reminds me of myself when I was a bit younger, or like him now is probably like where I might evolve to. It turns out he had schizophrenia, he'd done too much coke in life, and he just turned his brain into mush. And the reason why he was in there, he'd done so many years in prison, he stabbed someone in the neck. Through schizophrenia, the voices in his head were telling him to stab someone in the neck. I actually became really good friends with him. He's still in there now. I came out of hospital 5 months ago, he's still in there.
Wow.
But it's just, at night time, you're laying in bed and you're hearing a grown man. There was a grown man, an old biker boy. He had long hair, you could tell he's an old like rocker biker boy. He'd walk around, he'd be talking to it, like, walking around, sitting eat dinner. He wouldn't even be able to hold a fork properly. He'd, like, he'd go to bed and he'd be sobbing at the top of his voice in bed, and you'd be laying in bed hearing it. For the first 3 days I was in there, I had this guy sit at the end of my bed. So if I needed to brush my teeth, I'd say, look, can I have my toothbrush? He'd go, okay, cool, here's your toothbrush. I say, right, can I have a shower? He'd go, right, I've got to stand in there while you have a shower. So I said to him, but I'm having a shower. He goes, that's cool. Have a shower. He said, I've done this before. I said, okay, cool. So it's just that you just have to learn that someone's going to be sitting there. You're waking up in the morning, a bit of a morning glory, and you got your hard on. He doesn't care. He's done it before. So you just learn to lose all self-control and all self-respect for yourself. Whereas normally, like, if you stayed over your mate's house and you woke up in the morning with my hard on, you'd be like, well, don't fucking look at me. This guy's there. You're embracing it. But the amount of trouble in there, like, you'd be sitting there at dinner time, and there was a few times in there where I really wanted to sort of react, because I set the tone when I went in there straight up. I said, look, I'm in here to get better. You leave me alone. I'm shaking you around. The life that I live in my life is that you show me respect, I'm going to show you respect back. So the guys that were sort of bullies in there, I just said, look, you show me respect, that's it, done. I watched them like pick on people and like make them like eat with their left hand because they were not Muslim, but they needed to eat with the right hand and stuff like that. So I just developed it in there that I'm not getting involved in anyone's trouble, but there was times where I'd watch them like bully people eating dinner. I'm like, I can't sit with this. This doesn't sit right in my mind. They're bullying an old boy and making him eat his dinner a certain way.
Surely, if it's one-to-one and there's all
no
the
one
people
cares.
around, they don't
no
care.
one cares. No one cares.
It's not prison, though.
It's not prison. You're right. You see on TikTok about these people that like stack up cereal and dinners all in their cell, and like they like brag about how much dinner and noodles they got. It's just like that. It's just like that. There was guys in there that would be like, I remember 3 o'clock in the morning one day, one guy banged open his door. He's like, listen, I'm controlling the wing. I'm banging the block. And I'm under my door. I said, shut the fuck up. I said, you're not in prison. I said, you're in hospital. I said, I'm getting better. I said, shut up. I said, this is not prison. Mate, this is not prison. But they had got this into their mindset. They were so unwell that that to them was prison.
So how did that place help you get better?
No, they dose you up to the eyeballs. So every night they make you take a tablet. If you misbehave, you get it injected. So I was on a voluntary section, what I thought I was, where you can pick and choose when you leave, but you have to go back at night time. So the second day I was in there, I woke up in the morning, I said, right, I'm going to my sister's house for roast dinner today. And the guy was like, doesn't work like that, mate. He's like, you have to be approved. He said, you have a meeting tomorrow, you got to be approved leave, and they tell you how long you can have leave. And I was like, well, when I was in A&E, they told me that this, he's like, you're not in A&E now. And I was like, right, well, that's it. Well, fucking, I'm fucking leaving. I'm leaving. I'm getting out of here. I was pulling the place apart. Fucking 3 geezers just run straight in. Little quick jab in the back of your bum cheek. And then I was like that. And there was one day I was laying in there. I was like, I've got dribble. And I'm dribbling, but I can't move my tongue enough to move the dribble off of my cheek. And I was like, I just got to embrace it. And you're like that. You're done. You're on a different planet.
What are they putting in you?
So it's lorazepam, promethazine. I've researched it since. I'm a big researcher of like stuff. Like when I take a medication, I have to research it. So it's very strong doses of like antihistamines and sleeping tablets. And so every night you have to be at medication for 8. And if you don't come out your room, they'll come and take you out your room to get your medication. If you go, right, I'm not taking my medication tonight, they go, okay, cool, bang, see you later, we've got an injection.
That's mad.
I started to grow to get a bit of leave. So I was allowed out for like 3 hours a day. So I'd get my leave, I'd walk to my sister's house. And I remember went to my sister's house one day, I was like, I shouldn't even be out. And she was like, you look on a different planet, because they're pumping you with so much medication and sleeping tablets and mood stabilizers that she was like, you look on a different planet. She said, I'm going to drop you back. She said, get in the car, let's drop you back. She said, you need to go to bed. But I'd somehow managed to walk to her house, and like I was like, in my mind, I was like, I've got to get out, bit of freedom today, bit of fresh air. She's like, you look on a different planet. And I was in there so every Monday you have like this big panel meeting. So you go in and it's your weekly, like, they evaluate your mood. So they ask you all sorts of difficult questions and horrible questions. You got one man with a webcam. You got one man typing it. You got one lady who's the big gaffer. She's the big boss. Whatever you say in front of her that's wrong, she decides your fate, whether you leave or you don't leave or how many weeks. So I done just under 6 weeks in there. I had these weekly meetings, and I was going into these meetings. But some of the guys were going to these meetings, and they wouldn't even know they were in a meeting. But they'd be like rocking, and they're not getting out anytime soon. But I'd go in there and go, right, level-headed, be honest, be open, sit there, tell them that you want to get better, and you're going to get more time out. So in the end, the first meeting I went in there, she's like, you're not leaving. She said, your suicidal thoughts are so sporadic and they're so last minute that we can't trust you right now to leave. So I had to build up trust with them. After about a week, I started being able to like, right, you can have 2 hours out. So I'd walk up to McDonald's at West Croydon or West Wickham, come back. It's like, it's a different world of, I think a psychiatric hospital is good for people that have generally lost their mind. Like they're not, they're unsafe. Yeah.
Yeah. Go on.
Go on.
What do you think then is, where do you think the issues lie in the whole process? Because maybe you've got a different opinion, but I'd say the mental health awareness now has gone to quite an extreme where people talk about it a lot. There's awareness, but I think you maybe touched on something earlier, which I think is probably both in society and within the system because of the financial cost. And that's maybe actually just the time given to people. So people in society are happy to talk about mental health. But if they actually to go and sit down with, like you said, when they walk past a homeless person, to actually go and sit down with them for 10 minutes and have a conversation, even 30 seconds and have a conversation, people aren't willing to give up their time. They're willing to talk about it online and make it look like they're talking about it, but are they actually willing to do something about it? That's the society side. Then on the system side, the NHS or otherwise, it's time, because time is money and time is resource. And like you said, well, I can give you these tablets within the next 60 seconds, but to put you through 12 sessions of therapy, although that might be better for you, that's going to take up 12 hours or whatever it might be. So, but yeah, what's your opinion? Where's the issues actually lie?
It's about sympathising with people and understanding. Like, we have a lady, I won't mention her name, but she comes to the feed every single Monday. Last year, she was mentally unwell. When you were giving her food, she was chucking it on the floor. You were giving her a cup of coffee, she was pouring it away. And some of our volunteers was like, well, she doesn't deserve a meal. And I'm like, she's just a little bit unwell. She needs to just get the help. So eventually, she got sectioned and went into a mental health ward. She had just lost all capacity. And now she comes and she sits there, thank you so much, thanks for your time. She's medicated up to the eyeballs, but she's different. And I think it's just about understanding and having compassion that sometimes people aren't in a good spot in their brain and they behave a certain way because they behave it, but it's not them as a person. So it's about giving these people a second chance and like, listen, I don't care whether you're homeless, I don't care whether you do 100 pounds of heroin and crack a day. You're a normal person to me. I'll sit in a restaurant with you. So what? People are going to look at us and laugh. I'll sit with you anyway. Don't care. What I do at the homeless hub is I give out hugs. Most charities won't do it. They're like very like high vis. They're, like it's at arm's length. And if there's a little bit of an argument, you have to close the charity down for that. No, fuck that. I've got one guy every single Monday turns up. I'm like, come here, big cuddle. And because they're the same. They're the same as me and you. But they're just going through a bad point in their life, and sometimes that hug could mean the world to them. Everybody can chuck out a meal, you could chuck out a tenner, everyone can give someone a drink, but it's showing them compassion and love and care. And some of the homeless people turn up and like, we've never been to a charity like this, because we sit there and have a laugh. We sit there and sit around the front with them. We'll sit there and listen to their stories, or we'll have a laugh with them. One guy that we turn up, he looks like a famous actor, so we call him the famous actor. No other charity will do that, but it's about, they're normal people. It shouldn't be so regimented and strict and you give them a meal and you don't dare touch them because they could have infection. No, doesn't matter. They're normal. They're us. They're just going through in 10 years' time, they might be a completely different person and be able to sit there and have a conversation, be able to sit there and not think about drugs. They're the same as us. Like I said earlier, this in here beats the same as everybody, single person, whether you're an addict, whether you're homeless, whether you've killed someone, whether you've done a bank robbery, we beat here the same. It beats all the same as us.
So what do you think, like for me, obviously in business, I feel like business owners, entrepreneurs play a huge part in society in general, because for most, 80% of their time is at work. So if you own a company, you've got an opportunity to influence the people that work for you. You've got an opportunity to influence through brand messaging and things like social media that you post out, and you've got more resources. And I think, ultimately, money does kind of make the world go round in the world we live in, and business owners can influence that. So I see a big part of actually helping issues and problems like this, like homelessness. Is that the word?
Yeah,
I keep going to say homelessness.
Yeah.
A responsibility, perhaps, and that's the avenue I'd like to take at some point. A responsibility around getting business owners and entrepreneurs fully on board.
So,
what would you say? What could we do more than just handing out the meals?
first of all, I would like to invite you down to our charity on a Monday. Come down. We get there at 4:30. We all work as volunteers. We've got all sorts of walks of life and ages that people that help out. I'd like to invite you down on a Monday. Don't even think about money that you're going to donate or what you're going to do with your time. Just come and spend one Monday with us. So we get there at 4:30. The quicker the meals go, the quicker we're done. We're normally done by 7 p.m. latest. We normally got a queue of between 30 to 50 people every Monday. Just come and do one Monday with us. I'll introduce you. I'll take you around to some of our regulars, some of the people that we care about, like some of the people that are new to us, some of the people that have been long timers. Come and do one evening with us. Make the mindset for yourself, and then decide. And then I think that this entrepreneur stuff that you do is really cool in the business, and you're probably a lot more business minded than I am. I'm more free willed and just it is what it is, But let's do a Monday. Let's do a Monday. You're more than welcome. I'll take you down to the charity. You bring who you need to bring, and let's do a Monday. And you can see from the heart of there'll be some Mondays are hectic, and we have to have a debrief after, and we're like, right, guys, did anything affect you tonight? What do you want to talk about? What did you see that you didn't like? Some Mondays go good, and we're all driving home in the van with a big smile on our face. Yeah. But come down and see it for a Monday.
Yeah,
and I'll introduce you to the people. You can see it for yourself. It's going to be hard hitting, and you will go home at night time and be like, I think I've got a bed. Thanks, I've got my milk in the fridge. Thanks, I've got a button that turns on and hot water comes out. Come down on a Monday and you experience it. And then it's a couple of hours of your time, and then make your call what you want to do, because there is so much that we can do in this life with homelessness. And Croydon Council's bankrupt. They've got no money to help the homeless at the moment, so they're relying on people like us. There is charities that operate a lot more than we do, but we can only afford a Monday. So it costs us £250 every single Monday. That's council. That's insurance, ULEZ, tax for the van, MOT, food. That's £250 every single Monday. We do roughly last year we done 5,500 meals back to the homeless. Since I've started Percy's Homeless Hub, I've raised over £100,000 back onto the streets, and that's directly back. We're non-profit. Sometimes we don't have enough money to fund it, so we'll put our hands in our own pockets. One of our volunteers, I won't mention his name, but he's very good at putting his hand in his pocket when we need it. So he'll be like, right, boys, you short? Right, I've just put £100 into Percy's bank, use that tonight. Because it means something to people. He said, Jack, I come down because it helps my own mental health. It helps me feel good because I'm helping other people. So we are struggling for money at the moment. It's expensive. Since we've done the weekly feeds, it's a lot. But I can comfortably say, me and my team, we've put £100,000 back onto the streets of Croydon. And I think that's more than most charities.
What support do you need from the government, from the councils, moving forward, from people like business owners or other? What's the bigger picture? Where would you, if not your charity as a whole, how do charities that help homeless people or other need that support?
In all honesty, funding. We've got the love, we've got the care, we've got the tools, we've got the knowledge, we know the people. It's funding. Funding. Croydon Council doesn't have funding. There's another charity called Croydon Night Watch. They operate every night and they give out meals. But it's funding.
What would you do aside from meals? Let's say you had a big cash injection.
So at Christmas, we do a big project for the homeless. I've run it for the last 5 years. We rent out a venue. We have barbers. We have Samaritan counsellors. We have nurses. We have doctors. We have people just for a general chit-chat. We've looked at we've looked at abscesses from injecting with dirty needles. So we do harm reduction. So one of the biggest things I wanted to do as a charity was to give out clean needles. I called up near enough most of the doctors and nurses. They were like, "No, you can't do that. That's a silly idea." Well, if someone gets an abscess or they catch HIV, what's the long-term effects on the government? What's the long-term effects on the NHS? Why can I not give out a clean needle? What's the harm? I'm not using a needle. I'd rather someone go, I don't have a needle, so I'm going to use someone else's or one that I found on the floor. Well, here's a clean one. I've got the clean ones for you. So everyone was so anti on a needle exchange. I think we're one of the only mobile charities locally that will do a needle exchange. And I've got no questions asked. If you need to give me 10 dirty needles, put them in my pot. I'm going to give you some more back because I'd rather you be clean. We're never, ever, ever going to stop drug use, especially heroin. We're never going to control it. We're never going to stop it. So why not make it safer? We've lost some very, very good people on the streets from overdoses, which is now why we're something called naloxone trained. So we carry it on the van, all of the volunteers on naloxone train. So if someone overdoses, we can administer an injection into them through their clothes, and it basically reverses the effects of an overdose. So we're all naloxone trained. We lost a very, very good young man last year that we'd been working with for a long time. He died of an overdose. Died of an overdose because there was no one locally with naloxone, or no one had been trained. So he died in the police station. No one knew that he was overdosing, and he passed away. So we're all now naloxone trained. So if someone collapses in front of us, it's not about going, why have they collapsed? What drugs are they doing? It's right, bring them back to life. Inject them through the trousers, bring them back to life.
Have you done that?
Yep, we have, yeah. We've had 3 or 4 overdoses in the last year. Just Monday, we're just gone. We had an epileptic fit. We knew how to deal with that. We see a lot of people coming up to us in a bad way. They've over drunk too much or done too much drugs, or spice has taken a hold of Croydon at the moment in terms of spice is outweighing the heroin at the moment because it's cheaper and it's dirtier and it's worse. We've seen people piss and shit themselves because they've overdone it on the spice. But I don't care whether you piss and shit yourself. I just want you to be able to stay alive. So if it means me rolling you over and you got a bit of piss on your trousers, I will, because I want to keep you alive. You deserve to be alive just as much as I do. No matter whether you've got an addiction or whether you've done that and gone, right, I'm going to take this much drugs today because I'm feeling a certain way. I don't care. I just want you alive, and I want you well, and I want you smiling. I want you eating at my van next week because I care about you. I love you, and you're a human.
That's incredible. That's incredible. No, it's very admirable what you're doing. Your journey is very inspiring. Hopefully we can get this out to as many people as possible, and help inspire some people. I think it's, do you know what's something that could be, that you might be able to do that could be a good idea? We might be able to somehow like hook up a projector or a TV to your van.
Yeah.
I don't know if it might help some of the people that you help on a weekly basis to fully hear your story and be able to play it out to, you said they enjoy watching TV.
Yeah.
We might be able to somehow do something to get it on TV for them to watch maybe this episode.
So we do mini videos. So we got one guy at the moment. I'll tell you about Paul. Paul's our little token at the moment. So he is nearly 100 days or 365 days sober. So he used to come to us and he'd be drunk, he'd be kicking off, he'd be throwing things around. He's gone sober. He's 330 days sober. So we made a little video about him the other day, praising him. We're taking him out for dinner for his 365th day. Nice. We've booked the Salt Shed in Brixton, in Brighton, so a really nice place. We said, look, we'll pay for your clothes, we'll pay for your transport, we'll pay for your dinner. We're going to celebrate you. We're going to celebrate you as a human. Come out, we're going to look after you. All the volunteers, we've booked it. We're going to Brighton for his 365th day.
Nice, that's incredible.
That's 1 year sober without any drink or drugs.
So someone like that now, if they had the opportunity of a job and they had obviously still the people like you around him for that support, and they had, a room share, for 6 months, so you can get your bank card linked to that, is that,
so
you're talking
Paul
you're talking $3,500 for a room share for 6 months. You can then help assist him to get bank accounts and things back up in his name.
He would be up for that.
Someone could donate a phone, is that the sort of approach you can take on a wider picture with people?
He's incredible. So since being on the street, he's now moved into a property. He 3 months ago went and bought himself a car.
Oh, wow.
He's had a license for years, never been able to afford a car. He now drives a little Mini Cooper. He saved up good and hard for it. I think he paid about £1,000, but he's got a little Mini Cooper. He's got a son who's actually so proud of him because of the changes he's made in his life this last year. And we are. And he doesn't even sit around the front of the van anymore now. He stands around the back with us because he feels like a little community. He said, if I'm ever feeling down, he said, I'll turn up to the van on a Monday and I know you guys will pick me up. He said, if I'm ever struggling with wanting a drink, he said, I know that I can turn up and you guys are going to look after me. And we celebrate him. And 1 year ago, he would have been a write-off. He would have been the society's disappointment. He would have been the the man that you walk down across the road that's sitting on a park bench, you go, fuck, look at that pisshead, or look at that alcoholic, look at him, look, he's falling over the place. It's 5 o'clock in the afternoon, he's drinking an 8% lager. Now he's the man that everyone wants to be around. But 1 year ago, I still wanted to be around him. I still would have had him in my house. I still would have given him a shower. I still would have given him a cuddle. But everyone now, when he's 1 year sober, wants to give him a cuddle. I'll cuddle him back then, and I know that he can progress and become the man that he is now. He's making his son proud.
That's incredible. Well, I really, really appreciate you coming on, mate. And it's been an incredible conversation. Thank you so much for being so honest and open. I'm sure it's going to help some people out there and help inspire people. So
thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Wicked. Amazing, man.
Should get a little picky in a minute.
Get a picture.
Oh, you take it then.